So now let's talk about simplifying a trigonometric expression. So let's say that we have sine of x times cosine squared of x minus sine of x. I want to simplify this. So if you remember back in pre-calculus, the algebra part, when we needed to simplify the function, there were a couple of different ways that we can do this. The easiest way is to factor and then simplify using the powers of exponents. And that's really what we're going to be doing here as well. We're going to be using identities, and we're going to be factoring, and between those two things, we should be able to simplify. Now, one thing that I'm going to note is simplifications are not always unique. So in other words, you can find lots of different ways to simplify that are all equivalent. So each question might have multiple answers or methods to achieve these answers. I'm just showing you one of the possibilities. So in this case, the very first thing that I'm going to do is I can see that I have a greatest common factor. I have that sine of x is in both of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out that sine of x. Now, this factoring is going to work exactly the same as it did when we were working with other functions. So in this case, I get sine of x times cosine squared of x minus 1, because again, I'm taking the greatest common factor out of both of those. So then what I'm going to do is, I know that this looks kind of like a Pythagorean identity, but it's not quite. So what I'm going to do to make it look like a Pythagorean identity is I'm going to factor out that negative, because then what that's going to give me is 1 minus cosine squared of x for my second part. So I'm going to factor out my negative, so give me negative sine of x times 1 minus cosine squared of x. I know that 1 minus cosine squared of x is going to give me sine squared. So this gives me negative sine squared of x negative sine of x times sine squared of x. And when, of course, I multiply those together using my powers of exponents, I get negative sine cubed of x. So simplifying, again, is going to be one of these things that you're going to have to kind of guess and check. You might go down the wrong route and have to go back and do it again, just like if we were simplifying anything else. So definitely think about factoring. Definitely think about using identities, and then using the powers of exponents that you learned back in the algebra portion of pre-calculus to kind of play with these ideas.